Hi everyone, my name is Zach and Sphinx Cat is here again, and in this video we want to take a look at the options tab inside Blender Sculpt mode, because these options are also related to the brushes and to Blender Sculpt mode. So let's take a look what we have here. Overlay. Here you can set up if you want to see your texture and curve on your brush. So if I enable curve, you can see that we can see the curve on our brush. For example, if I change the curve like this, you can see it will change this on the brush itself. And you also can increase the alpha that you can see it better. And if you enable this brush here, this curve display will be disabled while sculpting. If this is disabled, you always see the curve. So let me disable this. And if I add a quick texture, let's just take a clouds texture. And if I enable this texture eye, you can see the texture and also set up the opacity using the alpha value here. And the same thing, if I enable this, the texture display will be disabled while sculpting. And if this is disabled, it will show up all the time. That's about the overlay. Then we have these options here. I disable the texture, and first of all we have this gravity factor. This is basically how much the gravity should affect our strokes. I reset the curve, and if I now paint here, you can see that all my strokes are pointing downwards. That means if you're sculpting here on the side, it's like that the cat is old, and yeah, you can see gravity affects our strokes. Can be pretty handy in some cases. And then we have this orientation object. That means if I add any kind of object, like an empty object, then it will use the Z direction of this object as gravity direction. So if I move this in this way, then basically Z is pointing in this direction. Then if I go back to the sculpt mode of this cat and set the empty object as orientation, then you will see how this is pointing in the Z direction of this object. So if I move this like this, you can see that now is everything moving upwards. So that's about the cat. Let's go to another layer and simply add a monkey head. And here I add a multi-resolution modifier and subdivide this a few times. And now I switch back to the sculpt mode. Threaded sculpt is enabled by default, and this basically takes advantage out of multiple CPU processors to improve the performance of sculpting. Then we have this fast navigate, and this only works in combination with a multi-resolution modifier. That means if I rotate my view, you can see that as long as I rotate my view, the subdivision level will reduce so that I can smoothly rotate. And if I release my middle mouse button, it will show the high subdivisions again. Next option is use deform only. I don't show you this in detail. This basically means that all constructive modifier will be disabled. That means all modifier that are creating new geometry, and only the deform modifiers will show up. That includes the multi-res modifier and other modifiers like deform modifiers. Then the next option is show diffuse color. This allows us to show the color of our material. If you are using cycles, you can't change this value, because if I enable this and change this, nothing will happen. You have to change the viewport color down here, and then you can see it will show up on the model itself. Or if you are using Blender Render and create a new material, then you can simply use the diffuse color here. Then we have this unified settings. Right now only size is enabled. That means if we are switching between the brushes, you can see the radius is the same for all brushes, but the strength is changing. And that's because only size is enabled. That means we also can enable strength. Then the strength, if I set this to 1, for example, will be the same for all different brushes. And yeah, the color option is not important for the sculpt mode. This is only important if you're using vertex paint, texture paint, and so on. And then the last thing we have is appearance. Here you basically can disable the brush, the circle around our mouse cursor, or change the colors for add and subtract. If this should be blue and subtract should be green, then you can do this. And if you are creating your own brushes, that means we take one of the brushes, press the plus button, then we can call it whatever we like. And if you now want a custom image for your own brush, you can go to the option, enable custom icon, and then simply choose your icon. In this case, I simply take this brush icon here, and then you can see it will show up here. And then you can use your own icons and see exactly what brush this is. And if you press the F button and save this Blender file, then this brush will keep inside this particular blend file. Yeah, and that's it with the options settings.